Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome from myself, Donna Fitzsimons, the head of nursing midwifery here in Queen's University in Belfast, to this lovely occasion. We've been in this room, I've been at many's boring meeting in here. I've been at many's sort of a challenging discussion, let's say. That's what we call our arguments in Queen's. And this is a really lovely event. When these were planned ahead, it was an opportunity after the pandemic to really regroup and come together as a community and discuss issues that were really relevant. And we thought that our professoriate within the school also had a voice and had something to say. So a really big round of applause for Karen McCutcheon, Professor Karen McCutcheon. It is so good this evening to see our practice partners out in force tonight. Just wonderful that you will make the effort to come along and to share this special evening with us. Also great to see our students here, great to see other colleagues from the Department of Health, from NIPEC and friends and the nursing and midwifery family further afield. But I suppose evenings like this are very, very personal, because it is the one chance that we get to show our families, our nearest and dearest, you know, what we kind of do all day and a little bit, give them a little bit of an insight into university life here for Karen. And she spent a really, I suppose, as we all know now, the last stages of her career here in academia, really giving back to our students and to the community some of that rich experience that she has gained throughout her nursing career that spans almost 4 decades. So it is fabulous to get this opportunity to celebrate with her. I suppose the main focus tonight is to welcome her family into this lovely room, and to really welcome, I suppose, her dad, Robert, to the evening, to Emily and Stephen and to Finn and to Helen, Karen's sister, also to Joe and Mal and Patricia. It's really great to see you guys all here as well, along with Maria and Sarah and Ron, who are really good friends, I know, and very important. Now, significantly, we have a couple of empty seats, not like physically, but I mean, obviously, it's a pity that David and Karen's mum can't be with us this evening. So that said, you know, we are all here in a very celebratory mode. We are here to hear from Karen some of the lessons that she has accumulated over her professional career, and to see them applied in a major national arena such as NICE. She'll go on to talk about that much, much more eloquently than I could, because she knows that organisation intimately and has really made a very, very significant professional contribution to it. And that's outstanding for any of us. But for someone from Northern Ireland who doesn't really get a chance to interact nationally on so many occasions, it is difficult. It is really challenging. But Karen's dedication and professionalism are such that they just won't let go of her. We don't want to let go of her either. But I'm going to give her the floor now and say thank you, Karen. Thank you from all of us in the room for, you know, all of your commitment to our profession and to your team here. Thanks a lot.
Okay, the doors are closed. They're locked and you can't get out. And I now have a captive audience and I'm going to talk all about me. No, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know people have been at work all day and the last thing they really need is to come and listen to a long and maybe long-winded talk from me, but I will try and keep it as quick as I can, but I've been around the block quite a long time and there's quite a lot to get through. So, but no, the door's locked and hopefully it will open shortly and you can have some refreshments at the end of the evening. So yeah, the topic is NICE nursing, and it's not that NICE nurses that I'm a nice nurse. I am a nice nurse. Okay, I am a nice nurse. But I've been working with NICE now from 2006. And I've been part of around about 450 guidelines and decisions that have been made around different things, medical interventions and technologies that have been used with people, the population of the UK. So that's a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. I've got it focus points, so that'll maybe keep me guided as to what I'm going to talk about. So first part, all about me, okay? And my dad did ask me, what are you going to talk about? How long is this going to be? When's this starting? So anyway, it's all about me, Dad. The door's closed. And Finn's having a giggle here in the front row. And you're just going to have to just bear with it here for, hopefully not too long. The second thing that I'm going to look at is clinical evidence and decision making, and how as a nice nurse you can become involved in that, how as a health professional you can become involved in that. And the third is evidence-based teaching and learning, and the patient experience, which is very, very important to me. And that will come clear as we go through the talk. So why nursing? Well, those three things there. So in 1985, and then somebody said, I think I showed this. Did I show this to you, Don? And you said to me, was Bob Geldof a nurse? No, I don't think so. I don't think he was a nurse, no. But in 1985, the biggest and best concert ever to happen on earth was Live Aid. And I watched that all day long, much to my mother and father's amusement, in the living room all day long. And I'm sure there's some of you in here, maybe not too many, but there's a few now, maybe watched the concert all day. And I watched that, and it was decision-making time at school. So we had to decide in 1985, 84, what we were going to do with our lives. And I watched that and I thought, oh gosh, I think I could help people here. I think, and I never did actually go to Africa, but I still could get there. But that's when I thought, I think I want to be a nurse. And that coupled with HIV and AIDS, because that was a huge, massive, big thing that was happening around the world. And watching those people suffering, really, it struck a chord with me. And I thought, no, these are people that need help and care. And how could I help? How could I have an impact on that? Again, I don't think I ever had a chance to do that, but it was something that sparked off my interest in nursing. And then lastly, but not leastly, was my granny. And my granny died when I was 4 years old. But, I can remember that. I remember. And my dad and I have had debates about this. Oh my goodness, we're still discussing it. But someone told me when I was 15 that my gran trained in the Mater Hospital in Dublin. Now, I didn't know there was a Mater Hospital in Dublin, so someone had to tell me that. But my father has argued with me for so long that it wasn't my granny, because she at that stage had moved. They were from Dublin, but she had moved up to the north. So what we actually think, on Sunday we had a conversation, and we actually think it might have been my father's mother, granny, my father's granny. So my great granny, that was the nurse who trained in Dublin in the Mater Hospital. So there was a connection there to nursing within our family. And those are the three sort of things that made me think about nursing as a career. And then I was a Mater nurse. I was born. And this was back in the day, 1986. And little did I know that I was sitting in the front row with the best friend that I've ever had in my life, who's sitting in the front row again, but she's not sitting beside me. But little did I know that, Joe, that picture would be taken and you and I would have been best friends, and I've stayed friends forever since then. We've been through everything, haven't we, over the years, thick and thin. But that was our group. So every hospital had a group of nurses, and there was 10 in our class. And we all finished, thank goodness, because sometimes you don't make it, to the end. But we all finished, and we worked in that brown building there, that hospital there. And it was so small. I mean, really, you're shaking your head, and you should, Margaret, probably remember too. There was hardly anything. I mean, there was was there 4 wards, maybe 5 wards, but we thought it was huge. We arrived, and we thought this place was enormous. And you had a nursing home right beside it, and in the nursing home, we didn't even have a plug. There wasn't even an electric plug in the room. There was no electricity. It was, and it wasn't that long ago, really, 1986. But one of the things that I kept, and I still have it today, is this little card here, because it was given to me as a PTS, pre-tiering student, is that what you call it? As a PTS. And the way you talk about patient and person-centred care? Well, do you know what? The Mater was way ahead, because in 1986, That's what they gave me, the patient in the middle, in the centre, with everybody around it. And I've kept that. I didn't let go of it. I kept it, and you know, kept it with me all the way through my career. And you know, I remembered it when I was looking at this here. What, you know, what things do I remember about nursing and what happened? So I was a clinical nurse at one stage. Started my training in 1986, and at that stage, in my first few weeks, and Joel remember this too, we were cleaning ashtrays because the patients were smoking in their beds. And one of our jobs was to make sure the patients' ashtrays were clean. And that's what we did. And until we'd passed that task, we couldn't actually move on to the next one, you know. So I mean, it was very important, and we did a good job. I worked in operating theatres, and maybe Kathy, I don't know whether you remember this, but and Daphne, we used to open the windows. So we were operating on patients with windows open, and all you could hear was the traffic outside. But there was no ventilation. There was nothing like that. So things have changed quite significantly, and we washed all our own instruments. So you might well have been scrubbed for a case that lasted 4 hours, and you had to stand afterwards and wash the instruments. And I know that it was a tough time, but it was also one of the best times too. Now Rita will be interested in this one. Read it down. So in 1989 and 1990, there were no nursing vacancies, Peter. There was none, not a thing. And they said to us when we finished our training, we were the first cohort of nurses, you'll have to go somewhere else. There's no jobs here. And we thought, oh my goodness, where are we going to go? And I ended up in London, and was going there I didn't last very long, let me tell you, but I went to London and worked in Westminster Hospital. And which was a challenging time, because at that stage they were just flooded with agency. They didn't have any nurse, they hadn't got any staff. But I learned a lot, learned the tube system, learned the best bars to go to. No, you weren't there, Joe, at that stage. learned how to navigate London. So then I came back. Then there was jobs were fine, money was fine, jobs were fine. So I then became a theatre nurse from 1990 then, and really stayed in theatres until around 2004. And thinking of that time, thinking of theatre, things that happened in theatre, and you know, if they happened now, we'd be getting counselling for these guys. We'd be getting counselling for these students. I was in the theatres when the Avenue Bar shootings happened in 1988, and I was day 3 in theatres, day 3 in an operating theatre, and I feel now for the staff. There was only 2 other staff on that night, so there was 2 staff, 1 sister, 1 staff nurse, and me, and that was it. And the blood, I mean, these guys hemorrhaged. One of them, I think 2 of them died actually, and the blood was everywhere. And I can remember the orthopedic surgeon at the time was Trevor Taylor, and he came over to me and gave me a big hug, and he said, Karen, is this the first you've ever seen this? Because I was just like, what is this? What's happened? And he says, don't you worry, you'll get through that. And those words stuck with me. Don't you worry, you'll get through this. It'll be okay. But there was no counselling, there was no debrief, there was no, you know, it was go and wash the instruments now, you know, go and wash the instruments, wash the walls, you know, that sort of thing, get on with it. But we did all that there. Unfortunately, that's where we were, that's the time we were living in. Crumlin Road jail bomb, oh my God, I had to put that in. There's a place in the Mater called St. John's. It was a it wasn't maternity wing, it was gynae wing, St. John's, and we were over there doing a minor gynae case, and the next thing, the place went mad. All these bleeps going and screaming, and it was unbelievable. And what had happened was, while we were in theatre with the anaesthetist, with all the theatre team, the bomb had gone off in the Crumlin Road jail. We had to run across, I don't even know what happened to the gynae patient. We had to run across the Crumlin Road while they were bringing the casualties to A&E and set the theatres up. And actually, there was no one survived enough to come to theatre. But we were faced with that. The security guard that got shot outside the hospital in 1992. Oh, my word. What a carry on. This is, in Northern Ireland, we always laugh at these things because there's always something. I mean, it's a macabre sense of humour that we have. But the security guard was on duty, and he was shot right outside the hospital. So before the surgeon or some of the staff had got to theatres, he was in the theatre. He was on the theatre table. And so forensics, the police were everywhere, and they wanted his clothing and his, you know, the victim's clothing and stuff. So everything that was in the anaesthetic room went to North Queen Street. Operation was over. Successful operation was over. And the surgeon came out and he said, "Where's my clothes?" And we went, "Where's your clothes?" And he said, "My car keys, my wallet, where's everything?" So North Queen Street. So the poor man, after surgery, had to go to North Queen Street and get his clothes back from forensics. So, I mean, that's the thing, you do laugh at some of these things, but, you know, the Shankill bombing also happened in 1993. It was I just had Emily. She was a baby and that bomb happened. And, you know, you tend to think of the big hospitals that would have received all the patients, but actually the Mater did a hell of a lot of work when that happened. And there was a lot of staff. And again, debriefing could have been done a lot more. But we were expecting, and everybody did. And that's what was so nice about the Mater. It didn't matter what side of the community you were from. As soon as you entered that hospital, the care was immaculate. You know, it was pristine, and it didn't matter. There was nothing. The staff all came together and worked really, really hard. On a more positive note, innovative times. Oh my goodness, the evolution of laparoscopy and minimally invasive procedures, that has been amazing, truly amazing. You know, that they can do so much now. And that's why working with NICE has been fantastic, because I've been able to stay ahead of the curve of what they're actually able to do these days. I used to go into theatres. I'd take a week off on leave and I'd go back to theatre and I'd go, "Oh my word, where's this bit of machinery come from? What's this going to do?" You know, because it was so fast paced at that stage. People were developing new techniques so quickly. Then I went on to be what they called a modern matron or a senior manager. So it started as a modern matron. Well, back then, do you think I was a matron? I don't think I was a matron, but I liked the uniform at that stage. I liked it. Because it gave you a sense of power. People don't like suits. So as soon as you put a suit on somebody and call them a manager, it becomes a different playing field. And you know, it's a different role. So the role at the start was around patient experience, patient satisfaction, patient care, care delivery. How can we improve it? All of those things. And then what happened was the review of public administration, and that changed everything. That changed things to the review of waiting lists, the review of paper, the review of process, and it became a real thing for me, that it wasn't the job that I'd signed up to. So I've worked and I have learned from some amazing people. Some of them are friends and will be friends and they're here in this room, and some colleagues such as Mary Hines, who can't be here, Nikki Patterson, Audrey Dowd was amazing, Rita, yourself. And my mentor that I can remember for theatres, Kathy McCutcheon, and I know it makes her feel so old that I say that she was my mentor, and she's crying. No, you're not crying. But she was my mentor in theatres, and you know, I have a memory of Kathy because she really did. She did what other people didn't do. So whenever you've got a student who's over, I did the theatre, the MB17 course. Daphne's shaking her head. I did that operating theatre department practice program, which was a seconded program for a year. And in the Mater, you had to go around the whole of Northern Ireland. And you went to these departments and people, "Oh, here's a student," you know, and they just ignored you. And they just, "Oh, you're not going to give her any time." Kathy was one of the few people that really went out of her way to make sure that my experience was a good one and that I learned there. And I never, you know, I can't ever thank you enough for doing that. It meant a lot, because it is difficult as a student, you know, going into all those places. And one last funny, just bear with me on this one. I've got a few more slides all about me, so it's good. But one last one is my friend, my friend Jo, and she said to me, I was working in theatres in the Mater and I was loving it. Absolutely loving it. Didn't love it at the start. I have to say I cried when they told me I was going there, but I loved it. And Jo got a job in Musgrave Park, and she used to ring me in the nights and she'd go, "Oh, I hate this. I hate theatres. Theatres is rubbish. I hate it. I hate it." I was going, "What are you talking about? It's brilliant. That place is, theatres is fantastic. Look at all the things you can get to do." Then I went to that place and I went, "Oh my God, this is terrible." So even your experience, what I'm trying to say is your experience is different and it matters. And that's how you can keep staff. If your student gets a good experience in an award or a department, they will stay, you know. But if they get a negative one, you're not, and so you don't have that luxury of not having any vacancies anymore. We have to make sure they get a good experience. So I told you it's all about me, and there's lots more to talk about. But anyway, during that time in clinical, I had loads of opportunities, really amazing opportunities. I had got my first travel scholarship. I got an RCN Manager of the Year award, which I was so happy to get. And I got to an innovation award in the European Society of Ophthalmic Nurses and Technicians in Paris. And I also got to finish my PGCHET through the Matter. They supported that. And I then self-funded my master's. And the only reason I left the Matter was because I really wanted to finish my master's. And I couldn't get the time. I couldn't, because I self-funded it. It wasn't funded by, it wasn't commissioned. It wasn't a commission program. I'd self-funded it. But I couldn't get the 3 hours release to go to the course. So that was the only reason that I left a hospital that I really was really passionate about the care that was being given there, and went to the city hospital, who did release me for not only 3 hours, but they released me for a day. So it can be done. These things can be done, and we need to look at that, and why students, you know, hopefully it doesn't go on anymore. I don't know if it does, but we need to really look at how we facilitate people to get education and you know, provide opportunities for people. Then I went into higher education, and it really was around the review, and I've talked about that. And I got my first teaching fellow post in 2007, and there's Doris up there with her master's himself. And really, this job has given me so many opportunities. I have had leadership opportunities. I see Francis Cannon, and I've put FN, FM up there, Francis. And I know you've got, it's future nurse, future midwife, but the Fs might be changed for something. I don't know. But, you know, it was a long struggle, and you really led us so well through that program, Francis. But, you know, and Donna's here as well. It was a real struggle. That was a real struggle, but we managed and we got through it. The teaching opportunities have been amazing. I've worked with Daphne Martin and Una, privileged to work with Una, and different people within our own team and our own school, and learned from them. And the scholarly opportunities have been absolutely amazing. So, you know, you show an interest and you have a passion for something, and, you know, we want that. The school wants that to happen. The university wants it to happen. They want you to promote the reputation of the school and the university. So there's nothing in your way, as long as you show passion and a motivation towards it. And the personal development opportunities have been, well, I suppose I have to take something for myself. I became the editor-in-chief for the Journal of Perioperative Practice, and I was that for 7 years. And that was a monthly edition, and it was a lot of work. And I have a few of my, I had to do an editorial. I have 55 editorials to write during that time, and I had to use certain people to focus my editorials on, and I have to say that most of them are in the front row. they were my people that I used, and it was a lot of them are experiences of what's happened. And Daphne's still the deputy editor of that journal. You know, it is a tough journal. It's not an international journal, but it's a national one. But it's a monthly edition, and it is a tough journal. And then I got the opportunity to become the associate editor, a clinical section editor for BMJ. So I've been doing that from 2015. And one of the biggest things that I've done really is develop that current NMC test of competence. So you've got the test of competence, which is the competence centre up in McGee. And then they also have to do a test of competence, which is like psychometric. No, it's not psychometrics, it's multiple choice. So I've developed that and have been running that for a few years, mainly for international students. Yeah. So I don't know. I might have a few more. I might have a few more slides all about me. No, I don't. That's me. So that's the first point done. Okay, we've only got 3 more to go. Stay with me. And this is probably the most important one now. This is clinical evidence and decision making. And so this is where I started to think. I had the time to think a little bit more. Because whenever you work in the university, it's not that you have more time and that you're given time to think. That does not happen. But when you go home at night or the weekends, you're not having to work. You know, whenever you go home at night or the weekends and you've been working on a ward, you don't have the patience to worry about in your head so much. Well, when you go home from the university and the school, you're thinking all the time about different things and how you can get prepared for the next lecture and what you're going to put in it and all the rest of it. So that's what made me start looking at clinical evidence and decision making. And then I started thinking about all the stuff that Peter deals with, all the money stuff down in the department. And I thought, how do we make sure, okay, there's a budget and it's strict, but how do we make sure we keep that quality there? And we keep the focus on the patient? How do we make sure we do that? So it really is about, well, I think NICE is one of the things that you can look at because they do the hard work for you. They, in NICE, what they will do is look at all the evidence that's there around everything, well, most things. And committees will sit, and I think Ian McGowan, actually, you're a NICE person too, aren't you a NICE nurse? You know, we will sit and look at all of the evidence and make decisions on that, on the best patient outcome that we can have. So I became a NICE nurse back in 2006, and I was the only Northern Ireland representative on the committee. I was the only Northern Ireland representative at that time in NICE, because in 2006 Northern Ireland decided to form sort of loose links with NICE, so they weren't firm. So NICE really works for NHS England and Wales. Scotland have their own group committee as well, and Northern Ireland is again different, but they formed links with NICE in 2006. So I worked on the IPAC, which is the Interventional Procedures Advisory Committee, for 10 years with Andrew Dillon and Michael Rawlins and Bruce Campbell. And we, at that stage, I think we did 400 guidelines on new procedures that was going on. And at that time, during those years, it was all laparoscopic. It was laparoscopic, laser. It was so many different things that were happening, but we had some biggies in there too. Then from NICE, I got involved in the National Patient Safety Advisory Board. And so I was involved in the ventilator-associated pneumonia guidelines and in the medicines on reconciliation guidelines. So there was work came from that, and that was really good. And then I moved into NICE MTAC, which is Medical Technologies Advisory Committee, from 2017, and I'm the only nursing representative for the UK on that one. Now, what does that really mean? Well, what it really means is that I have to speak loudly if I speak at all, because the other people in those rooms are quite formidable, and most of them are men, and there's not very many women, and we do have to be vocal whenever we see something that needs to be said. So the MTAC group that I'm in, it's said to have saved the NHS over 66.5 million in a year. So I'm quite proud of the fact that we haven't stopped anybody getting anything, but that we have managed to save money for the NHS. There's been loads of positive changes to NICE. Probably the most important one is the fact that we have more improved patient involvement now. So they have a patient implementation program in NICE now, where in the past, well, I'm probably going to talk about this later on, but in the past, we didn't really get much patient involvement, service user involvement at the start in 2006. But now, actually, they won't look at something unless there is a patient and service user involvement. So I'm really proud of that. Also, we're now looking at things called early value assessments. Oh, my word. This has been a game changer for me. Early value assessments it's all come about because of waiting lists, because the waiting lists are getting longer and longer. So they're now looking at technology that has hardly got any evidence. There's so little evidence. It's really hard to make decisions as to whether or not to go forward, but we have to keep in the back of our minds patient safety. Is it ethical? Has it got the potential? Has it got the potential to actually reduce waiting lists? So the early value assessments are something that we're really we're struggling with, but it's becoming I did 2 on Friday there, and yeah, it took all day, but we got a decision, hopefully in the end, the right one. So I'm not going to go through all of those slides. I think you know what NICE's role is. It doesn't say, you know, if you use NICE guidance, it doesn't say you cannot do, right? Do not do. It gives you guidance as to, and it's not even just giving health professionals guidance. One of the most important things there is it's giving patient information. So the patient can make decisions. And actually patients have phoned me or emailed me to ask me, well, this is for the men in the room, but they've asked, what is the best, Karen? What's the best treatment for benign prostatic hyperplasia? And my daughter was going, hope you don't mention prostates or anything in this lecture, Mummy. But they're, I'm getting those sorts of emails and I'm thinking, oh, this is quite, this is difficult. How do I give someone that I don't know that sort of information? How do I get it right? So I always have to go back to NICE and what they say. But there's 4 main areas that they look at, and some of the early value assessments that we've looked at, the ones on Friday were weight management apps. So you've got a lot of people out there now, a lot of companies that are creating apps, and we need to be careful because not all of these companies are reputable or are actually doing anything. So the weight management one didn't go, it's up for discussion still. Lower back pain, again, there's some really good ones, and then there's some really, ones that you need to look at. My COPD didn't fare too well either. I think they thought, the thing that really got me about my COPD was I think they thought they didn't have to ask patients anything. I think they thought they could just develop this app. And it was during COVID. And I think people thought, well, this would be a great way. People don't have to come into hospitals, so we'll create this app and then they can be cared for out there and they don't need to come in. It didn't really work because they didn't ask the patients. And then when we had a patient questioning the company, the company that were there, they thought, well, we haven't done an evaluation of this with patients. And you're like, oh, seriously? I mean, this is what we say you should be doing. So it didn't fare well. GateSmart, another one that haven't looked at patient involvement. So GateSmart was for people who are prone to falling. And, we had a person on the panel who said, look, I don't mind the app, but actually I'd quite like a video, because after you tell me about using this app, I'd quite like something just to remind me how to do. Well, they hadn't thought of that because they hadn't asked the patients. So, you need to ask patients. The one that passed recently was for CBT for anxiety in children and young people, which I thought, and virtual wards, yeah, early value assessments. So this is what they're looking at, and it's been challenging, but very, very interesting as well. Interventional procedures, clinical practice, and public health are the other things that NICE will look at. Who decides what to review? And it's a bit like, I think actually my boss said this today, everybody, somebody, anybody, nobody, who does this? So anyone that has anything that they think needs to be notified needs to do it. And then once notified, they do like a scope and review, and then they take it forward if needs be. How are the decisions reached? Well, it's an advisory panel of 24 people. You have to read, and I know Ian will shake his head, you have to read an enormous amount of stuff to get through on each thing. I mean, there's, I don't know how many pages would there be, like 300, maybe more than 500. It just, there's so many pages of stuff you have to read. And you could be asked at any stage on these committees a question. And so you can't not read the stuff when you go there. And, you're called out. So the chair of the committee that I was on before, if you hadn't spoke by 1 o'clock in the meeting, he asked you a question. So people are pressing the buzzer, get in before 1, or else he's going to be looking around the room asking us a question. But he also knew how to chair, because he made sure everybody in that meeting had an opportunity to speak. And that's so important when you're chairing something as well. So I have learned other techniques whilst going to these meetings. We have an independent review bodies, other universities that do systematic reviews on all of the, so we're not doing the systematic review, it's done for us, and then we have to read through it. Yeah, so it goes out to public consultation, and then we usually hit the press. Well, before that, qualies. Do you know how much a qualie is? Anybody know how much it is? Stagger a guess. How much are you worth? How much do they think you're worth? How much is your life worth? Anybody? I'm going to pick on people. This is great. Donna, how much do you think your life's worth? No? Stagger a guess? £100. Well, it's worth between 20,000 if they think you're worth it. 30,000, well, 20,000 definitely, and 30,000 if they think you're worth it. Okay, so what equality doesn't do. So they have to have something. I mean, Ian, you're doing health economics, aren't you? So I could be getting this big time wrong because there's health economists on the panels that I'm on. But they have to, the money's it's not infinity. You don't have infinity money you can just throw around. So we have to have a model that we use. So one of the models that they use is this quality adjusted life year. And so it doesn't take into account if you have this drug, you're going to live for 6 months. It only considers the year. And it also doesn't take into account, what your family think of that 6 months that they might have you. It only considers the year. So they have to model it on something. So this is one of the things that they do model it on. And it comes under such a lot of criticism. Recommendations, these are the recommendations that they can make following a committee. And what I've tried to do is, I'm not going to say, well, I haven't used them in a way, but because I was part of the Eurolift, benign prostatic hyperplasia, because I was part of that, I was then asked by members within that urology group, if I would be part of a Cochrane review. So then I've got work from this, so it's worked for me as well as an academic too. Ergo Start, it was about addressing for diabetic wounds. This is how weird the stuff is that comes in. The vaginal mesh, my goodness, that was probably the worst meetings that we've ever had to do, because there was so much ban the mesh. The press was everywhere. But it hasn't been. It's not a way that mesh still is there, but there's all these special arrangements in place now to make sure that we don't get ourselves into a mess again that we'd had got into. Then we're looking at Cure and Lock. Oh, that was my Friday one. That is a 0.15 mil blood culture device. It takes away the first 0.15 mils of blood that they think get most contaminated when you're doing a blood culture, and they just direct the rest of the blood into a vial, and they think they're going to get less false positives, and so that will stop antibiotic usage, and day stays can be reduced. So that's something. I mean, it was so boring. We put up lots of slides there about that one. that was my Friday. And then there's been things that they haven't recommended. So the likes of the Carry Heart. Now, it's not that they haven't recommended it and said do not use, but what they're saying is it's too early. It's too early. We need to know more information about this. And the EVAS system, actually, MHRA is involved in that there, because it has proved to be faulty. So they're not recommending that at all. So unpopular decisions, it's always in the headlines. But the thing with NICE is they have to be cost saving or cost neutral. So if anybody's bringing something along to NICE, it has to either be saving money or not costing any more money. Now, if it starts to cost more money, then the committee's going, well, this doesn't make sense, because we've got something that's doing the job, so it doesn't make sense. And then what they do is they go out to consultation, and then the press get it and they go, oh, but NICE refuses to support blah, blah, blah. Actually, what NICE are doing is they're using that sort of public media attention to use leverage to get the pharmaceutical companies to bring their price down, or to bring the manufacturing price down, so that it comes back in from consultation. The manufacturers had a chance to look at it, and then you'll see that the guidelines change. So, that's what they have to do to try and make that work. And it does work. So the next is a test. And I am going to look for hands. And I am going to do this. And if you know, and if you've seen this before, don't shout it out, okay? Now, my dad loves a quiz. Don't you love a quiz?
What?
You love a quiz? He's in his 80s. I have to bear with him. You love a quiz, don't you? Yes. So this is a quiz. A quiz. I'm going to show you a next slide, and you have to count how many times the letter F appears in the phrase. And if you know it, don't let anybody else know. Are you ready? Okay. 2, 3, 4. What did you say, Kathy? You didn't get counting them all? You want me to go back again? Right, I'm going to just very quickly, right? As long as it takes me to read it. Got the glasses on? Right, now there's no excuses now. How many did you get? 6, 3, 4, 5. Anybody get 10? Okay. There's 6. Yay! Okay. So I suppose I put this up because it's to say, well, it was to make sure you were all awake. Which I'm glad to say some people in the room are, Kathy, but the rest of you not. But I put this up because it's to show you that you can read something and read something and read something. And actually it takes someone else sometimes to come in and really read it very slowly and, you know, and really look, because we can forget some of the things, or we don't see some of the things. So, yeah, what can I say? Now, the time is moving on, so I'm not going to show this video. You maybe know about it. And if you don't know it, you maybe need to look at it. But it's called Monkey See, Monkey Do. And it's an experiment that they did with monkeys. They actually did this in the 1960s. And they put these monkeys into a cage with a stepladder, and they put bananas at the top of the stepladder. And the monkey, one of the monkeys, oh, bananas, right, great. Up it climbs up the ladder. And before it gets up the ladder to get the bananas, they'd soak the monkeys that are on the ground. So monkeys then learned that if you go up the ladder, you get soaked. So they started, so those monkeys, right, then they started taking the monkeys out. But every new person that they put in, they thought that they were going to get soaked if they went up the ladder. So even though in the end they had monkeys that had never even tried to go up the ladder, they beat the other monkeys up. They actually attacked the other monkeys. They wouldn't let them go up the ladder. And that is something that we do in nursing as well. Sometimes we beat other people, we beat ourselves up, we beat other people up. We don't actually really give things a chance. And so evidence-based teaching and learning is about looking at, well, actually, it's not good enough. That's the way things are done. You know, here's other ways of doing things. This is the other way you can do things. So I'm not going to show you the video because we don't really have time. And Gillian is sitting at the back keeping me at the time. So we'll not do that. So, oh, it's a minion. Put him in for you. And he has a banana. And really what we're saying is that education is evidence-based, encourages us to ask the questions. Why are we doing this? And it's so important. Now, this is the bit. Mary Duffy will be sitting on the edge of her seat. But anyway, in 2009, it was a huge turning point for me. I had a surgical procedure. It should have been routine. But during that procedure, I suffered a surgical error, which was quite major. And I ended up with 5 surgeries in 4 months. I ended up in ICU. I was in a surgical ward and I was in day procedure. And I had not the most awful experience in all of those areas, but in one area in particular, I had the most unbelievable experience that actually made me consider, is nursing the right career for me? Because if this is how nurses treat each other, this is not right. But you know the named nurse that we brought in? And we said, oh, you will get a named nurse. Well, I am not lying to you when I can tell you that I needed an emesis bowl because I was going to throw up. And whenever it was my daughter, my sister, my friend, I don't know who it was, went out to get one for me. And they were told, oh, no, we can't get that because we're not her named nurse. So then I threw up all over myself because they weren't my named nurse. And that, oh my goodness, that apart from being nursed in a male ward with men coming into my room at, 3 in the morning and you're lying there, you can't get out of bed, you've got drips and everything all over the place. I mean, so vulnerable as a patient. But, the only thing that really, even the poor patient assessment doesn't really sit with me. But actually, the named nurse bit, that just sickened me. Well, actually, I was sick, but that really did sicken me. So I wrote what I thought was feedback. I wouldn't call it a complaint. I didn't call it a complaint. I called it feedback. And what I got back was a dismissive, defensive response. And I knew that I had to go back in again. Okay, so I did this sort of in the middle of my treatment, and I knew I had to go back in again. And they sent me to the same ward, and I had the same horrible experience. And I thought, why have they, why was nobody listening to me? And no one followed it up. No one followed up the reason, she didn't, we sent her that letter. Was it okay? Did she get it okay? Was she happy enough with it? No one followed it up. And that was in 2009. And I really questioned whether to stay as being a nurse or to just pack my bags and go. Because I couldn't even answer a question that a student would ask me. I felt so psychologically damaged by the treatment that I had received by by some of our nurses, our other nurses. So you see this phrase, person-centred, and I'm going back to the wee card that I got in the matter all those years ago. It can only be called that if the person is at the centre of every point of care. If they're not there and they're not involved, it can't be person-centred. It needs to ensure that the person's preference and their needs and their values and their clinical decisions are guided by them. Partnerships, not this tokenistic, we'll send them out a consultation here and see what they think, or we'll bring them in after we've decided everything and make sure it's all okay. We'll run it past a patient. No, you need to have proper collaborations with people and treat them as partners. And you need to actively seek out feedback, because people who are traumatized by the experiences that they have, you need to the only way you'll find that out is by asking people for feedback and being open to actively listen to hear that feedback. I am so proud of what the university has. We have a fantastic PSIP forum and PSIP group, and there's some of the members here today, and I'm so delighted to see is you are amazing. You ask the difficult, the nitty-gritty questions, the questions that some of us go, oh no, not John again, not Susan, not Mary. What are they going to ask us now? You challenge us, and that's what we need to keep us on our toes, to keep us focused on what it is that we're actually doing. So, and thank you for that. The patient outcomes require us to take responsibility and ensure that we keep up to date with current treatments, ensure our education is evidence-based to make sure we have improvement and growth in the nursing profession, create opportunities for true patient contribution and involvement, listen to patient feedback, and be less dismissive and defensive. And nice guidelines will help your care decision making, and the nice nurse can help support you in this. And you know what? That's me. Almost finished to time. I have one last slide, and it's the finally remember slide. You can't do these things on your own. Okay. So this guy here, James Cash Penny, he was an American philanthropist. It's not pennies as we know it. You know why we have pennies in Primark? I thought I got all excited. I thought that's who he was. No, he was an American entrepreneur who had a shop. He did own shops in America, stores, major stores. But the 5 separate fingers that you have, fingers and thumbs, are 5 independent units. But when you close them, that fist multiplies your strength, and that's organisation. And that, I think, is how I want to leave this, that you can't do this on your own. You need others around you, and you need to listen to them. But thank you for listening. And I'm going to open the doors.
Thank you, Donna, for asking me to come along. I'm very honoured to be able to speak at Karen's professorial lecture. It makes me feel very comfortable and very secure to know that people like Karen are sitting on NICE and ensuring that we make the best decisions for our patients and moving forward. So thanks for that, Karen. I didn't know any of that about you at all. So, I mean, that's been a total surprise to me tonight. I thought you just kind of hung about here. Looking pretty. So I know we're here to celebrate Karen's academic achievements, but they are absolutely fabulous, if you all heard. But I'd just like to say a wee word about Karen, the nurse, and Karen, the person that I know. Karen, like myself, as she's told you all, is a proud Mater nurse, and what happens in the Mater stays in the Mater.
I did ask some of Karen's friends about, tell me something about Karen when she was training. I'm sure, Joe, you have plenty. But I can tell you there wasn't one story that I could repeat in delegate company. And when I was told about the kidnapping of a security guard held to ransom until such times as he would let you in the nurse's home, I decided I would stop asking. You've got Kate Cusick to thank for that one. So seriously though, I've been talking to many people who have known Karen along the way, and the words they use, I believe, totally reflect my experience of Karen and working with Karen the last couple of years in our respective posts. So what words were people using? Well, obviously enthusiastic, innovative, calm. Miss Eilish there said you were wrapped up in a big blanket of common sense, which I think is an absolute compliment to anybody. Always willing to give things a go, an absolute team player. But I think the things for me, there's an authenticity with Karen. What you see is what you get, and what you see is absolutely true and honest and totally focused on the patient, regardless of what job that she's done. The patient, as you can see, has always remained central. She has a real appetite for learning and doing things differently. Patricia Shepherd told me all about your years with her and your first sister's post and how
I've mentioned this before.
and how fabulous you were. But above all, I think everybody here will attest, Karen has been a great friend, a great colleague, and I think an absolute star in terms of fighting for our student nurses, fighting to make sure that the student nurses are properly looked after, because after all, they are our future. I am very privileged, Karen, to count you as a friend and colleague, and just want to say congratulations and thanks so much for tonight's lecture. It was great. And there's going to be a small presentation now, I believe.
Acknowledging all the important people. So thank you, Rita, if you would stay there. Thank you to the important people. And yeah, I think there's nobody in any doubt that the star show tonight is a certain Ben. Yes. From all of us, with a lot of love and thanks for your contribution and for your friendship. We are really indebted to you, and I'm sure lots and lots of patients are as well. So thank you very much. Please enjoy a medal and a drink with everybody, and thank you all so much for coming.